What's happening, guys? Welcome back to Vertical Football. Welcome back to another episode of the Manchester United Fans Corner. I'm your Oshegu, and guys, it's great to be back here. I know for close to a week or more than a week, I've not been around to do the Manchester United Fans Corner, but after the season, we decided to take a 1 week rest to rest fully because of the World Cup that is coming. Because starting from now, you'll be seeing our faces a lot in terms of analysis of the transfer and also analysis of the World Cup game. So, guys, I know you guys, I've missed you, and it's always very good to be back to analyze Manchester United. So, guys, today we have a very, very important player to analyze. And funny enough, is a player that we've not analyzed, and shockingly, we've been analyzing a lot of midfielders, during this season, but we've not just analyzed the player. And when I saw that his name was getting into a lot of conversations about our midfield set, I said, wow, we've not analyzed this guy. Let's analyze him. And that player is Alex Scott of Bournemouth. And so before we go to Alex Scott and to analyze what kind of player he is, what are his profiles, what can he bring to the team if he ends up joining Manchester United, I think we just want to give a quick talk about Ederson of Atalanta to Manchester United. You guys know we've done 3 content on Ederson. If you've not watched that content, please try to watch it. We analyzed him 3 times. 2 was based on the eye test, and then we did 1, which was the last episode before we went on that break on player profiles, where we analyzed Ederson through data. And it has been announced, I think, by respectable journalists that Ederson's deal has been completed by Manchester United, making him the first signing of the season. And I think for me, I wish him all the best. I think I wish Ederson all the best because, he's now a Manchester United player. We wish that this big leap from Atlanta to Manchester United at a very good age in his career, 26 going to 27 years. I hope that he does well. I hope that he's able to, at the prime, also take that very big leap into what is demanded for him at Manchester United. So we will be monitoring Ederson preseason, the season, and try to analyze what Michael Carrick wants to use Ederson of Atlanta, down Ederson of Manchester United for. And I think it will be very, very good analysis throughout the season. So I wish him all the best. And I really hope that he's a success at Manchester United. So let's quickly go to Alex Scott. Alex Scott, funny enough, I said earlier, we've not analyzed him, but I think it's very good to analyze Alex Scott. And I think for me, the first thing I want to say is he's a different midfielder from all the midfielders we've analyzed. Different midfielder from all the ones we've analyzed. And I really like a lot of things about him, a lot of things I believe he can improve upon. So guys, let's jump right to it. As you know, it's not just about the player's name, or how good he is. It's also about how good he is, but can he also fit? Where does he fit in Manchester United, right? What does his quality add to Manchester United? So guys, let's go to it. Let's analyze it. I think first thing you want to say about Alex Scott, and first thing that everybody that watches Alex Scott would notice, the first one, there are 2 major things, but the first one is that the guy is a pressing monster. And for me, it's not so much because when you look at the team he plays for, and I think I was going through some statistics even before I started analyzing him, I started preparing my notes for Alex Scott, and I was looking at top teams or teams in the Premier League and how they press, right? I was looking at which zones do they press. And I looked at Manchester United's own. I saw where we were pressing. Look at Tottenham. Look at all the teams in the Premier League, Man City, Arsenal. Look at everybody. And then I was so shocked. One of the teams that shocked me in that data of where they press after this whole season was Bournemouth. Bournemouth literally presses everywhere, everywhere on the pitch. They press in the final third, they press in the middle third, they press in the lower third. And I'm like, wow. And one of the players that adds to this kind of pressing, especially in the middle third and the final third, is Alex Scott. So first of all, you just have to say this guy is a pressing monster. This guy presses. This guy is front foot in all that he does. And I think that's a very good profile, especially with the way football is going now. You need pressers. And I think we're having a discussion with some of our guys in the community where we're talking about the fact that football now is not just about what a player does on the pitch, on the ball, sorry. It's not just about what you do on the ball. Now, football, you're also rated for what you do on the ball, but also rated, also very importantly, what to do off the ball. And I think there's a statistics around, and has been for a very long time, that the average footballer, if at all they hold the ball for a lot of period of time, in a 90 minutes period, the average footballer holds the ball for like, say 5 minutes out of the 90, right? A single player holds the ball at most 5 minutes out of a 90 minutes game. or 90 plus minutes game. So it means that you have more work to do off the ball. Whether your team is in possession, you have work to do off the ball. When your team doesn't have the possession, you have more work to do off the ball than even on the ball. So in as much as we will praise you for what you're going to do in that 5 minutes, if you're a player that holds the ball a lot in your setup, maybe 5-7 minutes, right? At most 7 minutes, right? Even as much as we're going to praise you for that, we also have to take note of the 80 plus minutes off the ball. What are you doing off the ball, right? In terms of attacking duties off the ball, defensive duties off the ball as an individual player. And I think this guy, as I said, is a pressing monster, very good presser, aggressive presser. And I really like that about him. I think the guy loves running. You can see in Alex Scott, he loves running. And I think when you also look at when you do your research on Bournemouth and Adoni Raiola, who has not gone to Liverpool, I think he just understands he fits that system because he's a player that really loves running. And I think if you are going to get that kind of player in your team, you can beat your chest that this is a player that will run for you. And I think that's something that was on the ball and off the ball will run for you, will press for you, right? Will press for you. We have those recoveries and those kind of situations. And I think it's very, very good because in pressing, when I talk about pressing, I'm talking about front foot pressing. When I talk about pressing, I'm talking about even counter pressing. When I'm talking about pressing and the way even defensive wise, I'm talking about even recovery defending, right? So in terms of someone has won the ball, they bypass the press, they won the ball. Someone that is quickly smart enough to turn and run and chase the player and recover such situations. So I think the guy really, really, really is a good person. Now, the second point about Alex Scott that you have to notice, right? The first one is the pressing. You have to notice is this guy is a master of the zone 14. Master of the zone 14. So what is the zone 14? Zone 14 is, this is the 18-yard box, right? The box, the space, the zone in front of the 18-yard box. That's what we call the zone 14 in football, right? The guy is a master of it. And I think a lot of people will look at that and say, oh, yeah, it takes a lot of shots there. It's not just a lot of shots. Even though I know, yes, the shot gets more of the attention. I think it's the movement in those zones, right? The pressing in those zones. I think in that zone, the pressing in that zone, the movement in that zone 14. And obviously, what we all see is the attempt to kick the ball, to shoot the ball in that zone, but also the movement, the pressing movements in that zone. I think that guy is a master of the zone 14. It's clear. Really is clear. I think it's not just about shot, as I said, but also about every other thing. I think that's really, really, really nice. And I think because when you look at it, and we'll talk more about that situation, but when you look at Alex Scott, you want to also notice that, as I said, not about the shot, but also the fact that the zone 14 is a very, very crowded area of the pitch. Especially when maybe your opponent is in a low block, mid block, it's a very, very crowded area. And so for a player to always want to be in that zone 14, always want to do things in that zone 14, already shows you the guy operates in very tight spaces. And I think that's a very good thing. And when you also look at him operating in those very tight spaces, especially now in this case, the zone 14, is the fact that the way he touches the ball. Because for you to be able to survive, the players that survive in that hole, as we call them, is a hole, right? You can't have a bad touch. You need to be someone that has a good relationship with the ball. And I think the guy does it. The way he holds the ball, the way he touches the ball, you understand, makes him to be able to operate in that side. Also, his willingness to operate in tight spaces also helps him. And I think, yeah, there are downsides to that because, you know, trying to operate in those zones is a very tight, good, congested zone. And you know that you'll be tackled, bodied at times. And I feel when I watch him and analyze him, I feel he's someone that's willing and he loves those contests to be in those situations, to sometimes to evade those situations. But, and even when it comes to physical contact, he's willing to take the contact in those zones. And I think it's a very, 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 very good, very, very good thing. So when I analyze his operation in that zone 14, that tight zone, I just thought, I said, this guy is like a Trojan horse. A Trojan horse, if you've know the history of what a Trojan horse is, right? It's someone that you can send as a Trojan horse to pierce through movements, through his willingness to carry the ball, touches the ball, it's like a Trojan horse. And I think it's a very good thing because he operates in that situation very, very well. Now, another quality about him is what I've said, but let me expand on it now, is his touch on the ball. This guy, when I watched him and analyzed him, I was like, okay, I get the feeling, obviously he's good on the ball. Obviously, you can see he's good on the ball. He has a good relationship with the ball. But not just being good on the ball, I feel the way he touches the ball, it reminds me of, for example, when a water dripping from a tap, maybe you've closed the tap, but the tap has not finished closing, right? The way water drips from the tap. That's the way he touches the ball. I think there's a rhythmic vibe to the way he touches the ball. So it's not just someone that touches the ball with heavy touches. It's someone that touches the ball, like just to move the ball from here to a short distance, he can touch the ball 3 times. And you just see him, it's like, pop, pop, pop. You see him, any small moment, pop. He's not someone that pushes the ball and then try to, no, he's touching the ball. And I really like that. I feel it's simplistic, but it's also stylish in a way, in my opinion. And I think those are the things that help him in terms of the ball is closely to him. He doesn't take heavy touches as much, so he's able to do pam, 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 pam in those tight spaces. And that's what you need, really. And I think obviously also with the fact that he has a little bit of movements in those places that helps him. But the way he touches, pam, 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 it helps him in that situation. And I really feel it's a very good quality about him. Simplistic, as I said, but very, very stylish. Now, let's go to the next one. Still on his activities on the ball. I feel a lot of times when I watch him and I try to analyze him, I like something about him also. And this is something I believe he has to do more of. But I think it's a very good instinct, right? It's the fact that a lot of times when he wants to take passes, he likes to go for passes that are very deep, right? So in terms of he wants to do a passing pass, very deep, very fast. And I think that's very, very good because it will be good for transitions, obviously. And I think such a player, pressing, counter-pressing, transitions, I think I really like that about him. And I think that high energy Bournemouth side already shows you the kind of player you're getting. I think that kind of quick, deep, fast kind of passing, I think he can improve on it because sometimes when you make those passes, it might be difficult, and because of the speed and how quick it is, it might be difficult for the receiving player to receive it very well. I noticed that, but I like the ability that he collects the ball and he quickly wants to go deep, wants to go fast. Yeah, so he can improve on that quality, but I think it's a very good quality to quickly turn, defensive situations to attacking situations quickly. And I think that's very, very good. You have a player like Bruno Fernandes that also can do that, and I think it's something that he can also improve upon in terms of whenever he receives the ball, he tries to go deep, tries to go fast, and I love that. Now, ball carrying ability, as I said, ball carrying ability is also very, very good. I think when you see his ball carrying, it's not someone that pushes the ball forward as much. It's someone that when he's taking those touches, it's not too much. It's closely within him. And I think that there's very good quality for a player that you want in those situations, even your ball carrying and, moving and arriving, which I think he can do very well. And he arrives in a very smart way. He's a player that when you watch him, you're feeling like, yes, there are a lot of things he still needs to improve on how he does it. But foundationally, you can see that the way he arrives in certain situations in terms of arriving either in the assist zones or even in the zone 14 arrives, I think it's a very, very good thing that he has. And I think he needs to improve on it, but I think it's also very, very good quality. You have to just say it's very, very good quality. Now, the physical demands, as I said, when he tries to play certain zones, you need to be physical. But I always feel that he enjoys those situations. But I also see that a lot of time he can get knocked off in terms of if you have a physical midfield or someone gets close to him, they can easily knock him off. Sometimes you get free kick in those situations, other times you don't get. But I think that maybe that's not the risk of what he's trying to do in terms of carrying the ball in tight spaces, moving the ball in certain zones that will hurt teams that may be doing a mid-block, low-block. As a Trojan horse, as I said, it's very, very good. So defensively, I've mentioned part of the defensive duties in terms of pressing, counter-pressing. So for example, in Michael Carrick's system, if Alex Scott was to join Manchester United, if he was to join, now I don't like to use he, but let's assume if he was to join, he was in the team and everything. So I know, for example, when you see the triangles and the diamonds that Michael Carrick liked in terms of short passes and in close proportion of those passes, is someone that really can help in terms of when we lose the ball to counter-press, that aggressiveness to win the ball back for you, right? It's someone that can do that. Also, I think also defensively, in terms of when you have an Alex Scott, it helps you to do high press very well. High press very well. Even a mid-block, yes. But I think for Man United that really, really struggles in high pressing, the data also has even showed that our high press, we need to do better. I think when I analyzed Manchester United and I saw some data from a respectable site, I found out that among the very top teams, at least among the top 5 teams this season, in terms of table number 1 to number 5, I think only Aston Villa, or number 6, Aston Villa and Manchester United were the teams that didn't really excel as much on high pressing situations. And Alex Scott is a player that can give you those vibes, right? In terms of high pressing situation. So, for example, you have him in your team, you can decide to go a 4-2-4. I know Michael Carrick has done a 4-2-4 last season because the season has ended now against, for example, Chelsea. I know he can do the 4-2-4, but the fact is the 4-2-4 wasn't high press. It was zonal. It was passive a bit, but you can decide to do a 4-2-4 high pressing situation in terms of, maybe him and Bruno also. Sometimes him and Bruno can even go there. Him and Mbeumo can go there, right? Depending on the position you're using him and depending on the game you are using him for, right? It's someone that can really do that. It's someone that can also be like, okay, there's a striker, maybe a Sesko presses, and you want to press in that triangle in terms of Sesko at the top, Bruno and Scott, and you want to high press teams and get turnovers and capitalize on it. And I think it's very, very good because it's not just going to just high press you, but also when you win the ball, it's someone that operates good well in that zone. Bruno operates good well in that zone. So it's something that really, really could be something we can look at. And I think, as I said earlier, recovery defending, front foot defending. He wants to get into the tackles. He wants to come behind players and dispossess them. He's a hard worker. And I think that's what you want, really. So the question now is, I've analyzed these things. I've analyzed some things he needs to improve upon. But the question now is, should we go for him? That's the question people are asking. Okay, you have said all this, but should we go for Alex Scott? I think for me, I don't think Alex Scott's profile. I think we have a kind of player that has the kind of profile of Alex Scott in Manchester United. Funny enough and sadly enough, the player does a lot of those things, but is not always fit for most part. And that is Mason Mount. I think the qualities, yes, you can also want to argue that Alex Scott also can see operate in more zones than a Mason Mount would, because they both can operate on the sides. Depending on how the trajectory of the game go, they are very good on that side. Alex Scott and Mason Mount can do very well in the zone 14. Alex Scott, obviously, is better in the zone 14. The CM role, I think they can do very well because high energetic players, they want to sacrifice themselves for the team. They can make you compact. They can make you robust in terms of being in the duels, being in the tackles, being in the interceptions, right? That kind of situation. But I know, yes, Alex Scott offers more maybe as first receiver. I think he can do that on specific days. In terms of the defensive aspect of on the ball situations, I believe he can do that. But the fact is, Mason Mount is not always available. I think the injury situation of Mason Mount is a big concern. And so for me, if United were going to make the decision to go for Alex Scott, if I was in charge of making that decision, maybe as a sporting director or what have you, if I'm going for Alex Scott, I'll be making sure that I sell Mason Mount, really, because I believe those profiles you need in your team. It's not about being, I don't like the phrase squad player. I've said that many times, but I believe you need that kind of profile in your squad. You need that kind of profile. Mason Mount can do that for us, really can do that for us, but injuries. But Alex Scott will do that and even give us much more, as I said, in terms of defensive angle. So this I'm very, very impressed with what I've seen about him. It's shocking that I didn't analyze him earlier. Yeah, I know I've watched some games, but I didn't really focus on impact. So even when I saw the Bournemouth game, that's the second leg, I saw that it was the shots at zone 14 and everything, but I didn't really take note to analyze him. But I analyzed him and I'm very, very impressed. And my decision will be, as I said, if you're going for him, let's say Mason Mount. So guys, let me have your opinion on Alex Scott. I know you have your own opinions, so let's have that discussion in the comment section. What do you think about Alex Scott? Do you think it's going to be a good move for us? Do you think we need him? Let's have that discussion, really. So we are back. I promise you a lot of content are going to be coming up. We're going to do analysis on Morgan Rogers. We're going to do analysis on even Matheus Fernandes through data. I promise you a lot of things that will come out, really. A lot of things are coming. Luis all will do analyzing based on data. We are back fully. We're going to analyze a lot. We're going to enjoy ourselves. So guys, thank you for sticking with me. I remember I almost self-share. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and don't forget to share. Until I see you next time. Bye.